Hello, friend, and welcome to Discovery 14.14.
Nice symmetry. As we reach the end of Season 2 of Discovery, we have some...
Previously on Star Trek Discovery.
Remember me saying how padded I thought the previous episode was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out originally there were only going to be 13 episodes. And then they felt they got too much to wind everything up in one episode at the end. So they added another one. Except they hadn't got enough for another one, obviously.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Yeah.
Far less padding in this part tonight, that's
Yes.
be said.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, what did Purry make of the last part?
Hello, Orgs. Purry here to talk about the Discovery episode The Big Goodbyes. Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, it's called Sweet Sorrows, apparently. Or, something akin to that. Well, there you go. That's a thing. So, I do, by the way, in this episode, agree with your criticism that it was a lot of goodbyes. Some good, but they were getting a bit wearing. But I do like a good goodbye. What I'm doing to reserve judgment here is I'm waiting to see what part happens in part 2. Because if part 2 seems rushed or has to make some leaps to kind of fit everything into the sort of 45 minutes or an hour long episode, then I'm going to come back and dump on part 1 of this, was a Sweet Sorrow part 1, because if basically they spent ages doing goodbyes in part 1 and then have to rush part 2, they have made some pacing errors, but we can't really tell until we look at this. I wouldn't have minded this being released as a double episode, possibly, depending again on seeing that one. But one of the things, look at the pretty Enterprise. Isn't she gorgeous? Top-notch to the effects people. Also the interior, I loved what they did with the interior, the bridge, the bridge. And it also made a really good contrast. So, for starters, actually seeing the ships side by side, kind of the, I suppose the patterning they had in the Enterprise hull, it gave you an impression of the ship being a bit older, and I think right at the beginning, was it Nan said something akin to, this is where the money's spent, and so I think the Crossfield class is cutting edge, whereas we could assume the Constitution's been kicking around for a good few years now, and so the Enterprise is not brand new, and I think that was quite good to get that kind of distinction between the two ships, and it meant it was always easy. You never weren't sure which ship you were on, because the Enterprise crew all had their colourful uniforms, you had the colourful bridge, just explosions of colour. So what I'm going to do is instead spend the rest of this on weird predictions. Now, as always, Murray's wholly inaccurate predictions. We'll see how badly these fail. So I was actually interested in what Andrew and Anne-Marie said in the last cast, because I'd of course been thinking, Discovery is sitting waiting for them in the future, and I'm like, but the whole point was to get Discovery out of the way, and Discovery and Calypso had been waiting 10,000 years, so actually the past makes a lot of sense. The only other thing could be that somehow everyone gets flung into the future and Discovery doesn't, and essentially someone parks Discovery, but that makes a lot less sense. So I think we could well end this season, and I think this is where we could be going, is by the end of the season, Discovery's stuck in the past. And effectively that's setting up Season 2 for the search for Discovery, where they've got to go and try to find where they parked. I also think, I'd be really interested to see what Tyler's coming back with. I think initially my thought was that, he's coming back with Klingons. The other thing could be he's coming back, as you say, with Mudd, and indeed I thought to carry everything in, they're helped out by Harry Mudd's robot army, which I think could be quite fun. But kind of into my fan dreams here is that, they're sitting there surrounded by Section 31 ships. That's how we can end the episode. And then all of a sudden, a D7 and a hold of Klingons warp in, followed by a hold of Starfleet ships, because Sarek and Amanda went and said, you might want to come and help here, things have gone wrong. And we get an almighty space battle, and while that's all going on, I agree with Anne-Marie that torpedo mounted in the hull, it's either a major plot point or they were really, really impressed that they'd done that torpedo stuck in the hull effect and wanted everyone to see it. I reckon it's the former. We'll see what happens. But I reckon we could end up with... I also think Jet Reno. I think she's going to be we could end up with Mad Jet Reno for season 2, where she's seen lots of flashes of the future, and it's driven her a bit, it's pushed her a bit over the edge. But I think there's a lot to look forward to. I think we are now getting, what I like is that we seem to have got some setup for potentially another season, so they obviously have the confidence that they weren't going to get axed at the end of this one, which is really good stuff. So final episode, I'm really looking forward to it. Might even try to get feedback in on Friday, whether I watch it on the train and send you feedback from, the 16:45 to Larbert, I don't know, but do keep up the good work. I always enjoy the podcast, and I'll hopefully send feedback, maybe on time, maybe not, we don't know. But until then, bye for now.
Bye! So yeah, predictions-wise, I don't think we've got a parked disco. We've got a disco with crew in the future.
Yeah.
Which is rather more interesting. But spot on the Klingons!
Yeah,
well done, sir.
Yeah.
As I guessed as well last time.
Yeah, I was all wrong.
There was no mud. No, that would have been a bit too comic. I can't help feeling
and
for the end.
And it didn't go into the past either.
No. And I don't think this part was rushed. There are other criticisms one might level at it, but rushed isn't one of them, I don't think.
And also, as well, last time we were talking a lot about all these people saying goodbye, is it justified? And the answer is actually yes, it is, by the end of this, because that was their last message to people. That was the farewell for Michael and Amanda and Sarek, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So, actually, although there was a bit much of it, it wasn't... Those goodbyes were not unjustified.
So then, let's go on to part 2, shall we? And see what we think of this.
Leland, we were just talking about you. Everybody hates you. Congratulations.
You know why I'm here. Give me what I've come for, or die for it.
By authority granted me under the Articles of the Federation and Starfleet Charter, I order you to surrender your vessels. No terms, no deals.
Last warning. Transmit the data to me, or you will be destroyed.
By my count, we have over 200 vessels, and you might have 30.
Count again.
It starts with not a good start, it has to be said. Camera spinning stupidly fast around both bridges. Same director, what a surprise. It's not big and it's not clever,
No.
Just silly.
Yes.
We get loads of shuttles being launched and those little craft from the season opener.
What are they? They're weird.
Yeah, and then there's some other pods as well with white holes.
Yeah, they look like electric toothbrushes.
I think those are the ones that came from the Enterprise they were talking about. Yeah.
Oh.
They don't look massively Starfleet, it has to be said.
No. There's another thing later on that doesn't look massively Starfleet either. We'll come to that.
Okay. There's a weird bit of 80s TV when we get different characters in split screen.
I know.
It's like the ending of a cop series from the 80s. Very odd. Don't quite know what they were trying to achieve with that, but it just pulls you straight out of it, doesn't it? Very odd.
It does look very strange, yes.
There is a wonderful moment when Reno says she can't violate the laws of physics, which sounds rather familiar.
It does a tad, yes.
Reese confirms Andrew's theory that all the 31 ships are empty except for Leland.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
On Tilly's prompting, Saru quotes Sun Tzu, which impresses Giorgio. When Leland hails, she lets him know that everyone hates him.
I love that. I love that.
She has got so many good lines in this story.
She does.
She's brilliant. He launches multiple tiny attack drones from the surface of the ship to even the odds in his favour. Is that a bit of tinkering by Control, or is that built into this class of vessel, I wonder? It's not something we'll ever see from Starfleet again.
We saw drones like that when they were approaching the base, and Tyler seemed to know about them.
Those are mines.
But weren't there drones on the ships as well?
I don't think so. It certainly didn't seem detached like this. Okay. And anyway, it's not something we ever see in the future, is my point.
Oh, okay.
So I suppose it could be something that Control's done.
Yeah.
Then, after the teaser, it's space battle time. Oh,
Yay.
It's been too long since we've had one of these. Excellent. The red-faced alien is confirmed as female, so you're spot on with that. And in interviewing one of the writers of this story, executive producer Michelle Paradise, it was revealed that it was intended to be Yeoman Colt, who's a very human-looking woman in the cage. Whoops.
Yeah.
So it's not confirmed on screen that that's who she is. So I
don't think they'd ever use her name.
No, so they get away with it. Poe steals a shuttle and gives Pike some tactical advice on where to defeat Control's drones.
Which I like.
Reno finishes charging the time crystal and Saru tells her to hurry to Burnham.
Hurry!
I'm going. Get off my ass. Sir, get off my ass, sir.
Enterprise uses herself as a shield to protect Discovery, which is a nice bit. And then Pike targets the Lead 31 ship to try and take out Leland. We get another crazy helter-skelter inside the turbolift view as Discovery takes impacts, and Burnham and co are on their way to a shuttle bay. And Stamets gets squidgily wounded.
Oh, it does sound really squishy. It really sort of set my teeth on edge.
Yeah.
I mean, good on them for the realism. I'm sure things do sound icky and squishy and stuff, but it was just sort of like, ooh, I didn't like it.
In sickbay, we see Dr. Pollard for the first time in ages. She's overloaded. She has a great line when Surrey tells her to do her best. Now I'm going to do a half-assed job because now's the perfect time.
Yeah, I love that.
Brilliant. So it's good news that she's still with the ship. Burnham gets into a time-travelling Iron Man suit, which really does look like an Iron Man suit in this episode. And there's too much mushy stuff again between her and Spock for Sprog 2 at this point.
Well, it's the timing. They were supposed to be in a hurry and they're just spending ages talking and it just winds me up.
She launches surrounded by ships, including Spock in a shuttle, all forming a protective shield, which looks very impressive.
Yeah, I like the way they do this as well. And I like the fact as well that as she's flying along at one point, she gets hit and spirals backwards and has to correct. So it's, I like that.
We get Leland boarding, but slightly different from the visions that we had last time. Because this time, having shot a few people, but not none of the regulars noticeably, he goes straight for the sphere data in the Ready Lab, as I'm now calling it, considering it used to be the Ready Room.
Well, I noticed it was different because although Owashekin gets shot, it's not fatally. She doesn't slide down.
She hasn't got a big hole in her either.
No, she doesn't slide down the thing.
No, it's something of a cheat, really. I mean, they needn't have bothered with those glimpses in the future in the last episode if it wasn't going to work out that way. Yeah. But then they needed the padding, you see. So, The torpedo breaches the Enterprise forward saucer section, though, as we saw in the visions. Yeah. But we know it's safe because, well, obvious. Pike deploys repair droids. Funny how we never see those in the future. Thing
I said it does not seem Trek.
Not at all.
Doesn't have a Trek aesthetic. Droids are not Trek.
No.
But this, even if they were going to do something, it doesn't have the Trek aesthetic at all, does it?
So much like something from Star Wars.
It does. It looks like BB-8 or R2 or that sort of thing. It's just wrong.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's supposed to be all about the human adventure Star Trek, so it's humans doing everything, or other aliens, but not robots, with the exception of Data, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could argue that when they talk about auto-repair, that's what's being deployed.
Well, it's never... Yeah, we've certainly never seen it, have we?
But... So I think you could potentially argue that, but you'd have to have bots that looked... They wouldn't do bots with a personality. That's what Star Wars does, and that's what these look like. They would just be very functional-looking tools. You know?
The one time we did get something like that, it was the Exocoms.
They looked like tools, didn't they?
Yes, they were tools with comedy feet.
Yeah,
but yeah, they made sense in the Star Trek universe. These things definitely.
No, not at all.
Anyways, it's a little thing again. They've got a jammed blast shield, so they can't isolate the affected area. And Admiral Greggs and Number One go and try and fix things. Then, as predicted, the Klingons turn up.
Oh, I love that.
With L'Rell in the Cleave ship.
Oh, I like
Good to see that again.
But I love the decloaking effect as well.
That's cool.
And then when they get hit, she laughs. Yeah. And I love that. She's like, I thought I was going to have a bloodless chancellorship. I get to fight, yay! And then she goes, today is a good day to die. And it's just like, yeah. And you can see Ash is sort of, he joins in the chanting, but you can see his eyes look ever so slightly frightened because he's not really Vogue anymore. And she's like, yay!
Yeah, I mean, so much for Ash not being able to show his face with the Klingons anymore. He's obviously got away with that, but hey-ho. Perhaps she's sworn her crew to secrecy or something. I do like the bridge. It's very nice. Good. It looks much more like the bridges we're used to on Klingon ships than previous ones did. Yeah, we also get Kelpians on Bowl fighters led by Serana.
I like that as well.
Nice.
That's cool.
Nice. They're sort of fishy-like design, aren't they?
Quite cool.
Spock works out Michael needs to go back to send the previous signals before being able to go into the future.
Which makes sense.
Yes, that's fair enough. But then cue loads of flashbacks for those at the back who haven't been following things.
Oh, don't.
Giorgio and Narn accost Leland in the Ready Lab, teasing him they know where his data is because he can't find it.
I love this.
We get more cool banter.
Leland, you look well.
For a couple of batteries and a data core stuffed in a meat sack.
Kind of like an AI sausage.
Ew.
Women, stop talking.
Pooh treats Stamets and tells him he's home now, and they share a sweet kiss. So, yeah, they've got back together again. Okay. I suppose that was bound to happen, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Michael jumps time as Spock is hit, and it all goes 2001 initially, though the portal thing for the wormholes looks different and good. She sets her signals. Again, we see every single one.
I know.
as Sprog 2 said, we saw those episodes.
Yep.
So that is a bit about those are the two bits of padding we could have done without.
Yeah.
Nana and Giorgio fight with Leland control.
I love the fighting, though.
It's fantastic. The bit of the ship they're in is hit, sucking two poor crew members out before a force field kicks in.
Yeah.
And then the gravity plays up, and they end up fighting on a revolving corridor, effectively. That's how they did it. I mean, all right, I've criticised the director, Osa Sami, a bit, but this is actually really well shot.
This works staged. Because the gravity's all gone to fuck. And so
and we've never seen anything like this before, but just works really well.
It does. It's brilliant. I love the way it's done.
We finally learn number one's name, and it's, well, according to the subtitles, it's Nuna, but the writer Paradise has confirmed it's Una, actually. Yeah. And that's what's on Memory Alpha now as well. And, of course, that works rather well for somebody called Number One, doesn't it?
Yes.
Apparently it was in a spin-off novel or something, so it's previously established, but now it's canon as much as anything in Star Trek is canon.
Yeah. But the thing I really like, what's the actress who plays her?
Ooh, I'm not sure I've got a note of that, but she's brilliant, isn't she?
She's really good.
Such snark in this episode.
Yeah, but also I really like the interaction between her and Greg's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they obviously respect each other, and that works out nicely.
Yeah.
D7s turn up in force, which is cool. Michael sets a 6th signal to guide Discovery through a wormhole, Fanar. And Giorgio traps Leland in the spore container and magnetises it, killing Leland Control in a fairly grisly manner, but without any gore.
And she laughs.
She did say she would.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And he does scream.
Yeah, you've got to get some sort of payoff from this season-long villain, and there we are.
Yeah.
They address the Pike is invulnerable thing, interestingly, because he's down with the torpedo now, and it's like, well, I'm not. I know how I'm going to die, so I know this isn't going to kill me. And they very sensibly find a way around it by saying, Greg says, well, you might not die, but it might take half the crew out with you, so that's not a good thing, is it? Yeah. So instead, she sacrifices herself to bring the blast door down manually, and obviously then she's cut off in the area of the torpedo and gets marmalised, poor thing.
But I like as well that because we know from before with that scene with Pike and Leland that as far as Greg's is concerned, Pike is kind of the embodiment of Starfleet. And so she wants him to carry on. She wants him to be there, and she sees a need for him to be there more than for her. So she steps in, and she's like, it's not so much I matter less than you, let's have a sacrifice off. It's not about that. It's about you're needed. Starfleet needs people like you.
Well, I mean, she'd already said they'd sidelined in before during the Klingon War for that reason. So. Yeah, I mean, basically they had to have somebody die in this, really, for it to have an impact, because having lost Ariam earlier on in the season, and obviously Greg's wasn't going to have a role in the future because she wasn't on the Discovery when it went to the future. So it's kind of logical, really, to kill her off. So, and they give her a noble ending.
They do, and she's been in 2 seasons.
She saves the Enterprise. Not many people can say that.
No,
Uncle Kirk.
But she's been in 2 seasons, so her death matters.
Yeah. So we stand up for Admiral Greggs. Or
eyes
the
up.
Phrase is.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Eyes up. Spock reveals his Shutley's bust, so he can't return to Discovery. We get another long chatty bit in the middle of an emergency. Although it's cool that Michael effectively advises him to get Kirk to guide him in the future.
Yeah.
Or not by name, obviously, but that you can see where they're going with that. It's like, okay, fair enough. We'll give you a pass on that. It's a nice bit of dialogue. Pike transports the Vulcan out so he can rejoin the Enterprise where he's supposed to be. And Michael does the future jump Iron Man style with Discovery in tow. It all goes motion picture on the bridge.
It does.
Which makes sense because, of course, that was an unstable wormhole they were caught in as well, so fair enough. Clearly, there are more crew on board than originally said they were going to come with Michael, judging by how busy the sickbay was. So they've got a fully crewed Discovery to help them when in the future.
Yeah, but then I think as well you've got the situation where they were in the battle and they needed more people to come and help because people started getting injured. So presumably people then came over. You would assume that the call had gone out because she does say at one point, doesn't she?
But arguably, see, we didn't need that scene in the previous episode where the select few say we're staying with you because that's not borne out in this episode.
No.
I mean, obviously some of them are there. But, not everybody, clearly. So, that would have been one of the things you could trim quite easily.
Yeah, you could.
The Enterprise crew are debriefed at Starfleet HQ, which is looking splendid as ever. All the crew, including a nicely lippy number one, claimed Discovery was destroyed.
Yeah, I love number one in this. Yes, for the third time. That is what I am saying. It actually reminded me of...
Can I go now?
It reminded me of Firefly.
Uh-huh.
You know I don't know what the episode is, but they get interrogated, and you've got Wash, who's just going on and on about how lovely Zoe is, and then you have just got, I think it's Jane. Just, are you done? Can I go now? Yeah.
Ash is made full commander and seemingly placed in charge of a more transparent Section 31. Can't see how that can work out, considering what we know about it from Deep Space Nine, so that's still a bit of an oddity.
Well, unless that becomes Starfleet intelligence and the 31-bit dies a death.
Maybe. Of course, we were due a 31 spin-off series, weren't we, that was going to be centred around Giorgio, but of course she's now 950 years in the future, so don't see how that's going to work out.
No, unless that's the Section 31 that is a prequel, filling in how Giorgio got into...
a prequel to a prequel, come on.
Could be. I'm not saying it will be, I'm saying it could be.
Spock suggests Discovery, her spore drive, and her crew should never be spoken of again in order to stop others developing time devices to get the sphere data, which kind of makes sense, but considering how badly they kept the secret of Giorgio's identity, I'm not sure that's a particularly reliable plan.
Yeah, but I did think at the time, nice way to fix continuity.
Nice try, yeah.
Yeah.
Spock records in his log that Amanda and Spock have promised never to speak of Michael again, which is kind of heartbreaking, but there you go.
Well, no, that not ever again, but not in public. They have all agreed.
Yeah.
Again, it's a continuity fix, isn't it?
To fix other bits of continuity, he finally gets his uniform. They've obviously been waiting for the last episode to do this, so it's kind of a payoff, really. And he ditches his beard. Still doesn't look right, though, I don't think, but there you go.
Well, interestingly, he did remind me rather of Zachary Quinto without a beard. He didn't remind me of Nimoy.
Right.
But he did remind me, without a beard, he did remind me a little of Zachary Quinto.
Uh-huh. The seventh signal appears, which Michael promised, showing that she made it to the future.
And it's in the Beta Quadrant they spotted, isn't it?
Yes. The Enterprise flies off to the accompaniment of the Discovery theme, which is a bit odd.
But then it merges.
Yes, and then the closing credits is like a mixture of the two. I must say, I found it an odd ending for an episode of Discovery to be featuring the Enterprise and its crew.
Yes.
It should have been the other way around. We should have just seen Discovery pop out in the future, and that, they don't have to show anything else other than that, but to finish the series on a ship that isn't the Discovery seems a bit...
Yeah, they should have appeared and gone, where are we? We are however many years into the future. Or, if that's many years into the future, and that's where her mum always was, could we not have had a hug with Michael and her mum?
Maybe, yeah.
That would have been quite nice, I think.
I mean, it has been confirmed by Paradise that Season 3 will be set 950 years in the future, which nicely avoids the problems they've been having being a prequel series. No worries about continuity anymore. We're going forward. We can do what we like, and, all the characters are at risk, so that's good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's certainly a very good send-off for Pike and co.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a rather a better episode of Star Trek, as in original series, than it is of Discovery, ironically, this particular one. And, I guess there's opportunity in future to make a Pike series if they've kept the bridge set and they can get him back on contract, and, plenty of interesting characters surrounding him there. But then you are with the problem of being a prequel series, aren't you? And limited with what they can do with both Spock and Pike. And number one, for that matter, she's got to still be around for the events of the Cage. Hey-ho. Generally, I felt it was a good episode, just let down a bit by that ending, not focusing on Discovery, and by those stylistic oddities the series has developed. Crazy monologuing in the middle of action scenes and stupid distracting camera work. There's some great lines, though, and everybody gets to be suitably heroic at one point or another. So, I mean, Saru makes for a great captain in this, really. And it's generally okay. I think what they should have done was not gone with 2 episodes, gone with a slightly longer last episode if needs be. Yeah. Hey, it's Netflix, it doesn't matter. They can, they're not tied by time, for heaven's sake. So they can have a slightly longer episode for the finale, but just not include so many goodbyes that were slowing the first half down so badly.
Yeah. I would say so. Longer than an hour without adverts, which probably would have made it an hour and a half with.
Yeah, or an hour and a quarter, yeah.
Something like that. And done it that way would have been better. I love that at the end you get Spock's swirly thing.
Oh, yes, on his science.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that. I like the swirly thing.
Again, it's a nice nod to the past.
So, I love the space battle.
Yeah, that's good.
It looked great. And whereas I have issues with the camera work in when you're focusing on the people, because it moves around a lot. I liked the way that the space battle was directed. The ships firing at each other and, all the rest of it. And it was happening at different angles. It did look like a 3D battle.
Yeah, and the main vessels weren't zipping around all over the place unrealistically.
The little ones were.
Yes, but that's the whole point of the little ones, isn't it?
Yeah, so...
Unlike, we just watched an episode of Orville where that was... Blimey, the manoeuvres that was putting off look absolutely crazy.
Yeah, but it is just a shoehorn, isn't it, the Orville?
It's a funny thing. Anyway, that's another series.
Yes. But so I loved the way that I loved the space battle. I really liked the character moments. But I think I agree with you that it finished as a very good episode of Star Trek, but it didn't end as a good episode of Discovery.
No. It's very odd.
I think it needed one more thing.
Yeah, literally, just them emerging.
Yeah. And
that would have been it, and you don't even need to let us know, as they have done through interviews, that it's 950 years in the future necessarily. It's just knowing that they're, that they've emerged somewhere would have been, perhaps just a bridge scene with them looking at each other and going, where the hell are we? Rather similar to when they emerged in the Mirror Universe. That's it.
But it did need something more. But that's a comparatively minor thing. It's not like all those Doctor Who's. In New Who, where the finale was always shit, wasn't it?
Oh no, it's not. It's a good finale. It's just slightly less Discovery-ish.
Yeah.
Than what we might expect. Hey ho, let's find out what other people thought.
Yeah. And we've heard from Chris Johnson. Hello, Chris. He writes, I don't really have much to say about the season finale because it was basically a large space battle mixed with Quantum Leap. But one thing I am glad about is they didn't end it with Control becoming the Borg.
No.
Which still could happen in season 3.
No, actually the writers have said that they weren't thinking Borg at all. It's just people's interpretation. I guess probably just because the effects being green, to be honest, immediately makes you think Borg. So, but no, that was never the writers' intentions.
The writers really dug themselves out of a plot hole by making everyone promise not to mention anything about Discovery. But I did enjoy the ending with the Enterprise setting off on a mission. They made the Enterprise bridge look the right side of the original camp with just the right amount of future tech so it didn't look silly.
Yeah.
And now I want a prequel with Captain Pike.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work, Chris. P.S. I wonder what happened to the Enterprise's droids when Kirk took over command. Did he make some inappropriate moves on one of them so they all jumped ship?
Nice. Thank you, Chris. We've heard from Andy. Just a couple of thoughts on the final. Overall, I enjoyed it, but the more I think about things, the more they start to unravel, a familiar problem with Alex Kurtzman's work. For example, why couldn't they have beamed Cornwall out of the room once the door was closed? Good point.
Yeah.
Why isn't the entire Enterprise built of whatever the blast door is made of? Yeah, I suppose. I mean, obviously heaviness isn't an issue because they're in space all the time, but maybe it's expense. Don't know.
Maybe it's something like conductivity and to do with the working of the shields.
No. Why did they give up trying to destroy Discovery? That they do explain. It's because he doesn't want to destroy it because he wants the information that's aboard it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
The shield started to fail in the battle, so more torpedoes would have done the job. Why did they still need to jump once Leland was neutralised? That had occurred to me. But I think the point was that they were making sure that nobody else could get hold of that data as well.
They were one of the things that Ash mentioned in a previous episode, is that he was worried that Control might happen again.
Yeah. Why did he need this sphere data still? Seemed pretty sentient to me. Now, he seemed to think he was going to become even more sentient, didn't he?
Well, I think there's degrees. You think about it, Data in Next Gen is sentient, but he doesn't... He wants to be human. He doesn't. I mean, really, what isn't fully evolved and fully formed?
Isn't after sentience because the vision we get in the future does like everything's control. He wants to be everything.
Yeah.
Why couldn't Amanda and Sarek let the rest of Starfleet know they needed support? Yeah, it's a reasonable point. Why do they have to pretend Discovery and Michael never existed? I mean, I get pretending it was destroyed works, but the entire crew wrote to their families, so I'm sure some of them would talk. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
How many shuttles does Discovery have? Quite a few, apparently. And do they know what evasive manoeuvres means? And so on. I did enjoy the episode and Season 2 as a whole, and seeing the D7 and proper Klingon bridges and the Enterprise firing the blue phasers was cool. But issues like those I listed just show lazy writing and a lack of respect for fans who tend to notice these sort of things. And I find that disappointing, and I worry that over time, as we discuss and speculate over these things as fans are prone to do, it will eat into our enjoyment and we're left with a Voyager situation where they're stuck 70 years from home because they forgot how to use a timer. That said, the cast was amazing and so desperately want a Captain Pike series now. The Enterprise has never looked better, and the final sequence of Spock walking onto the bridge and Enterprise in space stock was superb. Yes, it did look very pretty. I do look forward to Season 3 and the rest of Trek content coming out, but hope they will at least take a moment in the writer's room to try and see if the scenario they're working in stands up to scrutiny. We shall see. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I think quite a few of those are real issues.
Yeah.
They're never going to cover all of them. I do think they're kind of working on the same blueprint as Modern Who, which is if you move fast enough through the plot, people won't notice these things.
Yeah.
Forgetting that, of course, we rewatch these episodes multiple times. Every time we do, something else jumps out at us. So.
Yeah.
But then again, that was true about Old Who as well. But originally, nobody ever was able to rewatch it, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. I think in terms of the risk of stuff being like Voyager, I think the question is, are they going to be all, we need to get home? Or are they going to be more, we actually have to stay here because that's the only way to protect the future? Because if they are committed to staying, then you haven't got the problems Voyager had.
No, as long as they also ensure that the ship sort of ages and is damaged over time and stuff. I mean, that was something else that always bugged me about Voyager. Was that, they seem to have infinite resources. I mean, hopefully they've presumably got a few shuttles for starters now, for instance.
Yeah.
So,
but then again, it depends what's going on in the future. There, it may be that it can be repaired and stuff because the technology is more advanced.
Yeah, that's true.
So they might go. I think it's possible that they could write it that it doesn't have the pitfalls. I think it depends how they do it.
Yeah.
But it's possible, I think. And we've heard from Doreen, who writes, I enjoyed the final episode. My bugbears first, though. When Captain Pike deployed the DOT-7s, a.k.a. repair droids, I found it way too much like Star Wars.
Yep.
I think perhaps someone's seen Star Trek written in Star Wars font and taking it too literally. However, Anthony said they were trying to be Wall-E.
But they were a little bit as well. But no, definitely Star Wars is where I went as well.
There were too many goodbyes at the end again.
Yeah, less. I think the one thing about the previous episode was that this one seemed a lot less goodbye-ish as a result, but no good reason for it existing.
I drew parallels between Pike and Babylon 5's Sinclair.
Yeah, pass on that one.
Well, wasn't Sinclair also Catholic?
Yes, that's true. There is a parallel there.
And Sinclair sort of mattered for the future, it turned out, didn't it?
Yes, in a more severe way. I mean, it's not that Pike matters for the future, but beyond the few cadets that he's going to save. So,
Anyway, I loved it when each cell of the Section 31 ship peeled off and flew in battle formation. Spock seemed to change his speech patterns and stance when he finally put on his uniform and reported for duty on the Enterprise's bridge. He did, but he said something about feeling more fully who he is now, or something. I liked it when Serana and Ash and L'Rell turned up just when needed, and when Poe stole a shuttlecraft and then invoked diplomatic immunity in order to tell Pike how to defeat the nanoships. I did like that.
Yeah, that was good fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorian. We've heard from Martins.
Hello, the Rogs, and wishing everybody there a very happy Easter. And I should also start off by saying, many thanks for the podcast. I don't think I've said that before. It's been a lot of fun listening to and feeding back on Discovery this year, and we'll see what season 3 brings. Just briefly, that I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. I know Peter's had a few problems with the director, but I thought everything looked nice and very shiny. I do wonder if there's a few cues from the motion picture, particularly Michael going through all those sort of spots in time and the Discovery going into the future at the end. It's a very powerful sequence, I thought. Everybody got a lot to do. Everybody got their time to shine in the sun. I particularly like the gravity fight in the corridor with Narn and Giorgio and Leland, Control rather, where they just kept hopping about here and there, the centres of gravity, and I thought that was a really good sequence. Although Giorgio manages to kill Leland rather kind of simply. Well, it wasn't obviously not that simply, but so why did they still need to take the ship into the future? I mean, is it just so that Control isn't lingering anywhere, or did they just not get the message in time? And what about Giorgio's own series now that she's been flung into the future? Unless that's going to be a prequel to a prequel, as they say. I'm not sure where we are now in the Trek timeline either, where the Discovery's going to come out the other end of, whether we're kind of post next gen or exactly how far we are. Well, I know we must be further than that, but exactly how far I'm not sure. So perhaps you'll be able to shine a bit more light on that for me. I know as well that Spock's words have kind of rankled at the end, have kind of rankled a few, but it's. Again, I kind of rolled my eyes a bit at that bit because, you can hear the admin just clunking round and into place. Yep, scorched the earth. Let's never mention this again. It's Principal Tanzarian from The Simpsons. Let's never mention Discovery again, even though he's just had this whole big speech about Burnham. So and if anyone speaks it, it's on pain of death. Yeah, that's going over the top a bit, I think. Oh, and Michael reached for the great big book of cliches again, saying, I've only just got you back and I don't want to lose you again. So there we go. But, and did anybody really not think it wasn't her that started to send those signals? I mean, it had to be, really. By the end, she had to be doing, for some reason, just to fulfill something. Discovery's gone, and it's a credit to them, I think, that they didn't show us the other side of it. So we don't know how they arrived, what happened, so again, that's got to be next season. Though, as my housemate said, it's if they decide to end the series there, then it would have been a very fine place for them to end it. But we know there's a third season coming. But hopefully, I mean, this season it has been a bit quite continuity heavy, and as I've said before, they just seem to be doing a lot of work just to try to bend it and fits it into continuity. But hopefully now it will be free of that continuity and it will be able to tell a few more stories, sort of original stories and a bit more space exploration. And what will be interesting is what will happen in the future. Obviously, if this Discovery shows up, what's Starfleet going to say? And Kaminar as well. I mean, the warriors of Kaminar showed up at the end with the Bowel ships they've nicked. So what's happened there? I'm intrigued to find out a bit more about that. I know there's been a few people who've been planning for Pike to have his own series. And you know what? I would certainly watch it. With the Enterprise crew established as it is at the moment, with Ethan Peck as Spock and Rebecca Romaine as number one, I'd certainly watch that, certainly. It's an area of Trek that's not really been explored an awful lot about. So I might give them a bit of a backdoor to do that. I suppose now we know why Spock's not changed into Starfleet uniform, because they've been saving it for that shot at the end. Although, wasn't Spock wearing his uniform in the cage? So is he that bit surprised? Actually, I can't remember if he had a beard or not. I think he might have had a beard, actually, in the cage. Anyway, I will leave it there. So I hope to have some feedback on you from the full season at some point. So, okay, thank you. Cheers, and bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, it may well be a prequel to a prequel.
No, please, let's not do that.
And you mentioning again about, nobody's allowed to talk about Discovery, right? And one of our feedbackers, I can't remember who, said, what about all the people that say goodbye to them?
Yeah, their family and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yes, that was Andy.
Okay. What about the fact she was famous as being a mutineer throughout Starfleet?
Yeah, it's very hard to cover that up, isn't it? I mean...
And then, didn't she appear before a fuck-off massive crowd of people and get her rank back? And give some massive speech?
Yeah, pretty much.
So, how does that even work?
I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
No!
But, it was always going to be a very hard one to try and square that circle.
And so Paul, Sarek and Amanda are no longer allowed to mention their daughter, but every other fucker knows about her. Doesn't work, does it?
To give you some idea of the time scheme, by the way, so Discovery's shot 950 years into the future. Next Generation was about 100 years in the future. So we're talking majorly, beyond where the Picard series is going to be set, obviously. So, and
even beyond any of the flash forwards that you get in Next Gen.
Yes. Yeah, those sort of alternate universe ones.
Yes.
Yeah,
beyond any of those.
About 50 years in the future, aren't they? So
yeah.
It would have been a natural end for the series here at this point. I wonder if that was what they were intending in case the second series didn't go so well. But as it happens, we're up for another series. But yes, the whole point of them carrying on, even though Leland's dead, is because they want to make sure that no one can get hold of the sphere data in future. Because it wouldn't just be Leland to be after it, but anybody who's not particularly pleasant.
Yeah, which So that's why potentially Series 3 could work without being like Voyager, because if they understand that they have to stay in the future and can't come back.
Yeah.
And we've heard from Andrew.
Well, I've got 5 minutes to speak about this episode. I'm not going to use them all. I really enjoyed it. That's all I have to say, really. I was very happy by the end of this. There were nits you could pick, yeah, but I don't want to. I found myself very satisfied by this episode on all fronts. And that's really it. I really enjoyed it. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it as the finale to a binge watch. But for now, for right now, for nearly 8 o'clock on a Friday night, after 13 weeks of episodes of Discovery, I'm a happy viewer. Apart from that yum business, that's weird. But what this show did, it hit a lot of beats that for me really worked. They did something with real ambition. And there was always a question going through the series, would they stick the landing? And I think that they have. I think that they have. Not to give any thoughts away on what I think of the series as a whole, or the season as a whole, but just this episode, just today, I'm a happy viewer. And a grateful viewer to everyone involved in the show for everything they did to bring this show to life. Okay, I'm just going to drop in this little edit here. This is present me interrupting past me. It's now 1 o'clock in the morning as I record this. Just to say, it's worth thinking about what future Discovery is going to. Because if control is wiped out in the present, then the future from which Gabrielle Burnham came from, or went to then came from, doesn't happen. And so the events of the season, the Red Angel appearing, going to Spock, the probe coming from the future and infecting Arium, that all gets wiped out of the timeline by defeating Control, because that future doesn't happen. Unless you involve cross timelines and alternate futures and all that kind of stuff, which gets just a bit messy. But just thought it was interesting to think about what future Discovery might be going to. Okay, now back to past me. Actually, no, not to past me, to future you, from your perspective. Present me, interrupting past me, interrupting past me. It's 12:30-ish at the time I'm recording this, so I've had a little chance to think about the episode. There are nits that you could pick, obviously, big ones, small ones. Stuff that's specific to this episode and stuff that relates more generally to the overall season, which I don't have time to talk about right now. Turns out I'm using more of the 5 minutes than I thought I was going to. But anyway, despite all of those things, I still really like the episode. I didn't bump on the things which were less well thought out than they could have been. They didn't take me out of the episode. I still found it engaging, and the drama of the episode, even if some specific things weren't ideal, the drama of the overall episode I was very happy with. I was propulsed along. I was never bored, never annoyed. I had a great time with it. Okay, now back to past me to close this out. Really this time. Happy Easter, everyone. Thanks for listening to my inane drivel over the last 13 weeks. See you in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Michael has gone and set all the signals, and they're going to the future, not the past. So it doesn't undo control. He doesn't undo what's gone before. But because this has finally worked, and all the time Michael's mum appeared, it's because it didn't. It could be that Michael's mum isn't there.
Right. I'm pretty sure.
Because we're not sure what happened to Michael's mum, if you think about it. Because she took off without her suit, didn't she?
I know. I'd be amazed if she wasn't some part of season 3 at some point.
Yeah, true.
If that's an obvious thing to explore,
yeah,
isn't it, in the
but,
future?
So I do think you're right in the sense that they're going to an unknown future.
Yeah, and the writers confirmed Control's done now. They're moving on. You know, that was like, that's the course of this season. They're moving on now, which is fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael makes a point of she's the one who's setting those signals, and that's why she can't go forward. So it doesn't undo everything.
Yeah, I quite like the yum yum. Sorry.
Well, what's the yum?
That was what Nan said when Giorgio said, "Do you want to come and sort of take Leland down?" Basically.
Oh right, is that what she said?
Yeah, and she goes, "Oh yum yum."
Yeah,
it's like Nan's found a kindred spirit. I really like that. So
yeah.
I kind of like to see a spin-off show with Nan and Giorgio in it. That would be really fun.
It would. It would.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And finally, we hear from the Llama God.
Llama Lag, Scotty, Logic, Care, Ficut, Podcast feedback away. Okay, before I get into the number of this episode, one realisation I have for the previous episode after sending my last feedback was one of the beautiful bits of imagery they actually did in that episode is Pike's ascension at the very end of the episode, which just goes to highlight exactly how much they think of the character Ascension. He puts back on his original Enterprise Command uniform, and so as he departs from the Bridge of the Discovery, he is bathed in a golden light. He is obviously better than everyone else. He's an angelic being, and he's going to a better place, by which I mean, of course, the Bridge of the Enterprise. As I said in the last feedback, the Enterprise was the thing that I loved the most about the previous episode, and it'll probably be the same about this episode as well, because really, I know what they were going for with this episode, but in the end, I am mostly annoyed. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. As I've said before, parting being such tedious sorrow. Now, I'm not a fan of big, long goodbyes. I love Return of the King, and not just because it's part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but, say, all of the goodbyes that they do in that film are earned. By the end of that story, they've been through a lot together, they've succeeded, we've spent a lot of time with those characters, so you need a bit of closure on that. However, with Discovery, you could say the same thing. We've had in 2 seasons worth of characters, more than the length of 3 Lord of the Rings films, just about. So you could say that they deserve goodbyes. However, one of the things that the season has been doing, which is really, I've said this before, I'm sure, has really ticked me off, is we've just had so many fake-out goodbyes this season. We've had the Saru death fake-out. We've had Culber coming back from the dead. We've had Michael's death fake-out, even though, I knew the plan was to save her anyway. But still, we've had so many of these things that when there's moments of emotional resonance in this episode, it was really hard to actually get fully engaged with them, especially because they're involved in time travel shenanigans, which meant any of these things could actually stick. So, whilst I know that a lot of people were very emotionally affected by this episode, I just couldn't, because I was waiting for this entire episode for the other magnetic boot to drop, for the whole thing to be undermined and undone. So I just couldn't emotionally invest in this episode, which is really annoying, because I love a bit of emotional closure. I like feeling that kind of emotional distress, because I'm masochistic or something. My other problem, unfortunately, with this episode is that we resolve the whole how do we deal with this being a prequel, whilst also being made many years into the future, and they go with the principal Tamzarian solution. So yeah, that was a bit of a cop-out on The Simpsons, and it's even more of a cop-out here. I am really unhappy with how they dealt with this. Spock suggesting that under whatever article it was of Federation law, that in order to protect the timeline, they have to just make it a treasonable offence to ever mention Discovery, Spore Drive, or anything again. I mean, that's just frankly ridiculous. I mean, I know we've been going to some lengths during the season to explain why some technologies seem to have vanished, like, the 3D hologram system becoming easily infectable by computer virus. I mean, fair enough, but this is just unimaginative. And I've loved Discovery. I've never had a problem with the fact that all the retro tech looks more futuristic now, because it's just something that's going to happen when you're making a TV series in the future. I don't give a damn about that. But the fact they have to actually just explain away why we never again hear about Michael or anyone else because they've sworn a vow of complete secrecy, or so, that's just giant hairy space bollocks, and they could have come up with something better. It's the kind of thing that as we mentioned on this podcast, and frankly, we're not paid to write TV series episodes. They could have done better. And I'm sure that if future production teams, and I'm sure we're going to go through several more before the series does end, if future production teams do decide to bring them back to their original timeline, then they'll find a way around that as well. But ultimately, this just wasn't satisfying in the slightest. But that said, at the same time, I didn't hate this episode. There was an awful lot of spectacle going on. The space battles were fantastic. The one emotional beat that did work for me was Hugh and Stamets' reconciliation. That actually felt like a genuine moment, given these are characters we don't know anything about in the future. The fact that they actually committed to each other actually didn't matter whether they lived or died, because Hugh had recommitted to Paul, and that was beautiful, and that bit did make me tear up. I did love that much. We get a really cool fight sequence in the corridor of the Discovery. I mean, admittedly, it's lifted straight from Inception, but hey, it's the kind of thing you can do on a spaceship with moving artificial gravity. Although I can imagine that you might have found it a bit dodgy with the rotating camera angles, but yeah, I really like that. I like the Klingons and everyone else coming to save the day. Of course, I like the Klingons coming to save the day. And I like those little astromechs the Enterprise has. Where the hell do they come from? Little astromechs fixing the hole? Or, as Joe put it, mechanical porgs? And they're very much not Star Trek, that's very much Star Wars, but yeah, I like them as well. And the thing I like the most, and admittedly Joe had to point this out to me because no matter how hard I try, I am still just a man. She pointed out that in this episode, the women do all the work while the men just stand around, and sometimes take credit for it as well. Michael solves the problem of the wormholes and actually does all the hard work. Tilly fixes the shields. Jet Reno fixes the time crystal and other stuff. Lorel fixes the space battle. Admiral Greggs, I'll miss her, but Admiral Greggs fixes the photon torpedo. Sarana does all the hard work. Lorel, it's all the women. And if we can take away anything from this episode, it's the fact that it's the women who are finally the competent ones, and they really need to get all the credit for everything they've done in this episode. So, yay, that was the best thing to see. And I guess there was something fitting about Michael sacrificing herself for everyone else's sins. Well, Section 31 sins, but you could blame that everyone's responsible for that on Good Friday. But yeah, ultimately this wasn't the season finale I was hoping for. The explanation of the red signals was just too obvious, and we guessed it right at the start. I mean, and I don't like being able to guess things right at the start. I like being able to be wrong-footed and then, being shown something cleverer than I can come up with. But I know that you're going to be doing another episode on actual feedback for the entire season, so I will save that for then. So, till we finally do look over the whole thing and judge it accordingly, glory to you and your cast.
There you are.
Thank you. Good point, Joe, about the women. You've got, as well as all the ones you mentioned, Michael and Lorel and Greggs and Sarana and Tilly, you've also got Poe.
Yes.
And
yes, she works out how to destroy the 31 probe things.
And you've got Georgiou and Narn taking down Leland.
Exactly. Leland at one point says, "Women, shut up," thereby signing his death warrants with a single phrase.
Yes. yeah.
I know, quite true, and rather liberating and wonderful. It's definitely one of the better things about Discovery is the fact that it's really Deep Space Nine did quite well for women
for its time.
But Discovery's like miles ahead of even that.
I know, kind of spoilers for our season wrap up, but I still love Death by Mansplaining.
Yes, that was a good moment, wasn't it?
It's a shame you couldn't invest in the goodbyes and everything, because there've been too many fake outs and possibly too many goodbyes.
I can quite understand it.
But it's understandable. It's a shame, but it's understandable.
I mean, I did make the point in the last episode. I think one of the goodbyes that did work in the last episode, as a result of what happens in this one, is that if Michael hadn't ended up going to the future, that goodbye to Sarek and Amanda would have been appalling.
But as it happens,
that wasn't a fake out, and she has gone to the future.
Yeah.
So actually, they did need that there. That I can accept. But some of the others, yes, they were fake outs, because we got when she said goodbye to all the crew, and then the crew ended up coming with her.
But the one with Ash, though, they ended up separated.
Yes, they did in the end, but like you said, in effect, they'd already said goodbye anyway. They didn't really need to rake over those coals again. And they did it again in this episode, albeit briefly, and it's like, no, we've done this, move on.
Yeah. Did you get up teary with Hugh and Paul or not?
I didn't get teary, but I liked it. It was a moment that was needed, I think, because having Trek's first properly gay couple, and then they kill one of them. They really did need to do something about that, and they waited right until the last minute before doing it as well. So that was quite sweet.
Yeah, I could kind of buy it on the basis that adversity will draw people together.
Yes, that's true as well. And it'd be nice if in season 3 things are still not back the way they were.
Yeah,
because
there's still
he's
some
still
tension.
going to be affected, isn't he, by dying, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, it would be nice if there was still some tension and still some sort of uncertainty and some differences, maybe.
Yeah. Now, the rotating corridor scene, because the gravity's gone, made complete sense to me. There's a reason for the camera to be rotating, because they're rotating.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with that at all. What I have a problem with is they're just zipping the camera around for the sake of it to try and make scenes seem more exciting, and they're just making us feel sick for no good reason.
Yeah.
Hence, the first few seconds of this episode were just stupid.
Yeah.
So it immediately put me in a bad mood. But, there are times when it's justified to move the camera around a bit, but too often they're just doing it for the sake of it. But,
and I don't like all them weird, magical, weird shit turbo lift shots.
Yeah, no, those are silly as well.
Yes.
So there we go. As Llama God mentioned, we will be doing a wrap-up. We thought we'd probably end up doing that when we get the next of the minisodes, because we got some of those due next month, apparently.
Although that's US, and we don't know whether they're coming.
Yeah,
UK.
if it looks like that's going to be horribly delayed, then we'll put out a broadcast just on something at the season,
and we'll flag it up
on
Twitter, and also we'll mention it on Borgcast Galactica. We know we've got some overlap there.
Yeah.
So if there is a delay to the UK airing, then we'll announce it. Otherwise, it should be obvious, because it should be clear we've got some short treks to cover, and at the same time we're going to do.
One would hope. The reason why we didn't get the short treks until much later was because they weren't originally part of the package of Netflix. But presumably, it was as soon as we got the first lot that the other lot were planned at the same time. So presumably that was all part of the deal with Netflix. So
we would hope.
Although you were saying that you'd read somewhere that they're going to be animated.
Yes.
Which is interesting. So anyway, well, as I say, if we get to mid-May and we haven't heard anything, then we'll probably put up our thoughts on the season in general and invite you to respond likewise if you'd like to.
Yeah.
And it'll also then give Pieman an opportunity to reflect back on the last episode as well.
Yes, yeah.
But other than that, we have got an Easter special planned, although this is going to go out on Easter Day at the earliest. Hey, I'm kind of busy this time of year. What are you going to do? But we do have a bit of an Easter special. Depending on how much of because I get a certain amount of data I'm allowed to upload with the package I've got. If I'm over it, that might have to wait till the 1st of May. But it'll still be in the Easter season, which after all lasts 7 weeks, so it still counts. But yes, if you don't get the Easter special straight away, it'll be up on the 1st of May as soon as everything resets for me. And that's it. It's a little bit of special fun, as we usually do at these seasonal times.
Yeah, and again, if there is a gap, we'll flag it up on Twitter that it's there for you.
Yeah. But yes, other than that, we'll be covering the minisodes. I've also got planned covering the remaining bits of Season 1 of Next Generation with Andy. Those will pop up about one a month is the plan on that front. Obviously on weekends when I'm not doing the other broadcast.
Yeah.
But things will be slightly less hectic now that Discovery is finished. And I do have a vaguely sketch idea for a rather bizarre interview show that will involve Star Trek V, but we'll see if I can get the technology to work for that. That'll be another once-a-month thing as well, but we shall see.
Well, thank you to everybody who's fed back, not just on this episode, but all of them.
Yep, and yes, we'll catch you for the next broadcast for the Easter special, whenever that'll be. Just a quick plug. Our good friend Dave Probert has a new podcast out at the moment. It's a Doctor Who podcast. Now, there are loads of those around, but this one's rather different because basically he just selects an episode at random and watches it and just chats about it. And the first one was really good fun. It was one of the early Hartnell ones that I've not seen. I think Dalek Masterplan episode. Yeah. But it worked really well. So well worth checking that out if you're into Doctor Who. Jackdaw Meanderings. It's on iTunes and Libsyn?
Yep.
Yes. Splendid. Cheery bye.
Bye.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the Borgcast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at borgcast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Shut it down!
Off, you bugger. Off.